Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolutely beautiful video game ABZÜ. But we aren't just looking at this as some relaxing, cozy underwater journey. We're going to take it a huge step further and look at it through the incredibly brilliant, frankly mind-bending lens of philosophers Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari. Because, as it turns out, beneath all those cute fish and colorful corals, there is a massive, profound struggle happening between free-flowing connection and rigid, oppressive control.
To break this down, we'll be mapping our descent across 6 distinct stages: ocean versus the triangle, desire in smooth space, sonar, refrain, and rhizome, becoming animal in deep time, the apparatus of capture, and finally, achieving oceanic consistency. Let's jump right in.
Starting off with Section 1, Ocean versus the Triangle, where we identify the core philosophical conflict of the entire text.
Okay, the absolute crux of this whole analysis hinges on a massive structural clash. Think of it as a strict binary. On one side, you have the ocean, right? It's open, it's organic, curving, and just endlessly connected. And on the exact opposite side, you have the geometric triangle. The sea inherently wants you to drift, to explore laterally and freely. But the triangle, it's entirely about closed capture. It literally exists to take flowing movement and violently lock it down into a fixed extractive trap.
Now you might be wondering, why a triangle specifically? Well, Deleuze and Guattari had this intense critique of what they called the audible triangle, the classic father-mother-child dynamic. They forcefully argued that this structure takes the vast, wild potential of human desire and just traps it inside this tiny, manageable domestic box. And what's wild is that in ABZÜ, this abstract concept of capture becomes completely literal. We see it taking the shape of these hostile pyramids that exist purely to harvest energy from the sea.
So how exactly does a video game take the highly uncompromising philosophy of Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari and actually make it playable? This is exactly where the game shines. It forces you, the player, to actively break open those rigid, geometric systems and physically return life back to the ocean. Let's move down into Section 2, Desire in Smooth Space, where we move beyond that oedipal triangle.
The ocean here acts as the ultimate example of what these philosophers call smooth space. It's this wide-open field of drift, pressure, and rhythm that fundamentally resists being tied down to one measurable center. And think about the diver character for a moment. She has no face. There's no backstory, no family trauma she's working through. She isn't driven by some psychological lack. Instead, she functions purely as a connective machine, driven entirely by movement and how she links up with the world around her.
And the developers over at Giant Squid engineered the game's mechanics to make this philosophical clash unbelievably tactile. You can literally feel the difference on your controller. Smooth space lets you drift freely and organically through these lush, curved kelp forests. But then you hit striated space, temple gates, factory corridors, fixed grids, and suddenly the path is forced and meticulous. You are practically feeling the philosophy right in your thumbs.
All right, on to Section 3. Sonar, refrain, and rhizome, looking at sound and lateral growth.
So your main tool in the game is a simple sonar ping. But it's not a weapon, it's a connector. It acts as what the text calls a refrain, a repeated sound that creates a territory. This mechanic is so fundamentally anti-audible because it doesn't stop to ask what a sign means, it only asks what a sign does. Whether you're pinging the environment or just sitting quietly to meditate on a shark statue, you're giving up central control and reaching outward to join this vast, cosmic, ocean-wide rhythm. All beautifully scored by Austin Wintory, by the way.
Let's actually walk through how you heal the world step by step here. You use your sonar to decode a sealed pool. That releases a specific creature into the water. That new creature adds a completely new line of movement, and suddenly the local ecology is re-territorialized. It expands. This is exactly what the philosophers call a rhizome. It's a living system growing horizontally, thickening the world, connecting freely in all directions without a single hierarchical trunk or central boss pulling the strings. Going deeper now to Section 4, Becoming Animal in Deep Time, Entering the Movement of the Other. The concept of becoming animal is absolutely crucial here. And it isn't just about imitating a creature or playing dress-up. Deleuze and Guattari strictly define this. When the diver grabs onto a fish, she adopts its exact speed, its exact line of movement. She briefly enters its world to form a temporary, dynamic assemblage. It becomes a mobile war machine against those fixed geometric traps.
And every single creature modulates the water differently.
Grabbing a turtle gives you a slow, armored drift. A squid pulls you into this deep, abyssal, tentacular motion. But the great white shark is totally unique. It acts as the ultimate anomalous force, essentially serving as a threshold guide that physically breaks through the harsh architecture of the game and pulls you into entirely new spaces.
Now we hit this famous quote from the text, "God is a lobster." I know, it sounds completely absurd, right? But it actually perfectly describes the deepest strata of the sea. Think of a lobster's two crushing claws. Down in the abyss, you are caught in a double articulation, a literal double pinch. You've got the immense geological pressure of the deep ocean crushing you from one side, and the hostile grip of industrial extraction cables on the other.
Descending now into Section 5, the apparatus of capture, examining the hostile geometry of the state.
At the very bottom of the ocean, we hit the absolute nadir of our journey, the pyramid. This is the apparatus of capture. It operates just like a black hole, violently sucking in all the free-flowing relation of the sea. It overcodes the ocean, acting as the ultimate bad center, taking living, moving water and brutally converting it into measurable, extracted, and tightly controlled energy.
The game makes you feel this clash in your very bones. Think about how relaxed you are when you're just riding ocean currents, with the text calls practicing nomad science, naturally adapting to changing conditions. Now contrast that with the intense anxiety of trying to calculate your way through a punishing grid of explosive mines. That is royal geometry. You are forced to measure, stabilize, and obey. The game uses the threat of the mind to make you tense and rigid. It's literally microfascism presented as a spatial sensation.
So we really have to ask this functional question. What exactly is the pyramid diagram extracting from the ocean? It's stripping away organic relation. The abstract machine of the pyramid is converting pure, wild movement into dead, extracted power. Its entire bureaucratic purpose is just to centralize, harvest, and immobilize. And finally, Section 6, Achieving Oceanic Consistency, where we look at restoring the plane.
If we rigorously map the player's descent through the gameplay timeframe, your entire journey is this continuous schizoanalytic operation. You move from the supple surface kelp rhizomes down into the violent, rigid extraction zones of the pyramids, and finally, you push completely through into deep time, bringing ancient prehistoric life back up to restore the present.
And what's profoundly interesting about this return to consistency is that the diver does not conquer the ocean at the end. She doesn't become the new sovereign ruler of the sea. Instead, the dead zones are recoded. The pyramid's black hole is destroyed, and the diver just becomes imperceptible. She becomes simply one flowing relation among many, swimming alongside the whales. Flow is completely uncoupled from triangular command.
By unpacking the game this way, we see that ABZÜ is clearly so much more than just a relaxing swim. It's a profound piece of what Deleuze and Guattari call minor literature, taking standard tools like video game mechanics and rendering them into a force against the dominant apparatus. As the text states, the triangle loses its right to define what movement can do.
I want to leave you with this uncompromising thought. Now that you've felt the tangible difference between open oceanic flow and rigid triangular capture, where else in the architecture of your own life is the state extracting your desire? Where are the geometric pyramids and bureaucratic minefields trying to harvest your energy in the real world? Think deeply about that, long after this explainer concludes.